And new one of these. That's the bond thing, okay. Put that over sideways. Any times, any durations? Okay, I'll ask.
Oh, it is past 4 o'clock. So better get, according to that. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 4 o'clock, July 10th. Roll call, please.
Mayor Crawford,
Here.
Commissioner Blanchard,
Here.
Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Hodges,
Here.
Commissioner Ryan.
Okay, if we'll stand, please, and we'll say Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we don't have any awards or proclamations. I did ask Barb Young and Brad Anderson to come in and just come up to the podium, and we can thank them officially for bringing some money in to improve our community. Come on. You. We just want to acknowledge you both too, and thank you on behalf of the commission for your hard work and the things that you're going to do with the grant money from on behalf of the Northtown District Neighborhood Improvement Project. A lot of people probably saw that in the paper, and the newspaper carried a beautiful cover story about it, but there are people who don't get the newspaper and will get the probably watch us on Community Access. And I just think it's important that we thank you as a commission for just sitting down and just putting a pencil to what you think is needed in Salina. And that's certainly a project that is needed, I think. And it's going to provide an extremely nice entryway into Salina. Anyway, so if you'd like to say a few words, I'd like to hear you. Go ahead, Barb. Lay it on us here.
It's a 3-year commitment, and main thing is the 9th Street corridor from Pacific to Euclid. We'll get new sidewalks, landscaping, pole banners, front porches. We'll do an assessment of exactly what is needed, but that was the sidewalks and landscaping and the pole banners were what the residents wanted. So that's what we're going to do first. And then we're going to do street art, including Mr. Imagination around Graham Avenue Methodist. We're going to renovate an old billboard at North Street and Broadway and just generally improve everything.
I think it's great. And I think Jessica Martin said it the best. She was quoted in the newspaper saying the North Salina project will bring life and greater morale to that area, and we'll see immediate change. And I think that's so true. We at the community level can do so much more. If we wait for the federal government, we'll wait a long time. And Brad. Tell us what we're going to see you do.
Well, one of the things that I'd like to mention on behalf of both Barb's project and ours, for the folks who think that community plans and vision statements and strategic plans just get done and paid for and go on a shelf, we wouldn't have been able to be funded through Dane G. Hansen or through the Greater Salina Community Foundation if we didn't clearly articulate how those plans were going to be embodied within the improvements that we each proposed. Ours is a little different than a specific neighborhood. Our area of need, our group that was identified in the Big Ideas Cultural Plan back in 2009 that this commission adopted was strengthening the role and relationship that artists have in the community. While we have a long and well-established group of cultural organizations that lead, we don't have the same in individual artists. And so by helping with a comprehensive multi-year program of professional development of artists and then engaging those artists directly in two areas. One is the downtown redevelopment as a pilot area of how do we meaningfully engage creative folks within that transformation of the downtown in multiple ways. To the second area that is probably one of the more comprehensive and broader, has the largest number of community organizations participating, is with arts and healing. And in that case, we'll be integrating artists into social service, community service, and healthcare agencies to help with not art therapy, but the benefits of having creativity in your life. And so whether that's journaling or creating art or finding a voice that you might not otherwise have, we'll be finding unique ways of directly engaging artists and community together. And we'll have about $90,000 over the next 3 years to do that. So, and then we have that much more that's been promised by the private sector to help round that out. So we're excited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the Salina Community Foundation. And I think we should give you keep writing grants, bring money in. Okay, it's time for Citizens Forum. Is there anyone who would like to come to the microphone, give your name and address, and tell us what you're thinking?
That was such a loaded question. What are you saying? I'm Phil Black at 118 East Republic here in Salina. And first of all, I wanted to tell you, as far as the field house, I'm personally very, very excited about it opening. I happen to be one of those who participated in the city volleyball, Parks and Rec volleyball teams, and we were always shuttled back and forth depending on which week it was. And you always hoped everybody remembered which week we're in. So I'm very excited about the building. One of the things that I had been thinking about, and I don't know if this has even come up yet, but is the issue of food. And that comes partly from a visit I had just a few years ago out in Seattle at a place called the Pro Club of Seattle, which is where the Microsoft employees are that's where they go per the contract. And I had opportunity through a friend who worked at Microsoft to go through the building. And one of the things that struck me about their food portion was they didn't just do healthy food, but they actually had trainers work with the nutritionists at the Pro Club who would figure out what that particular client needed, whether it was carbo loading or whatever it was. Obviously, we could never do that, but it struck me that this would be a really good opportunity to provide an education on what kinds of nutrition is required for sports. And I don't know that ever gets talked about enough. We have two people directly or indirectly associated with healthcare here. I guess you're connected too, but not quite the same way. A little different. So maybe you have to recuse yourself on this one. I'm just kidding. But that it might be wise for us to think about, for instance, indoor soccer, people are running back and forth all the time. One would assume they'd need extra, electrolytes. And are we thinking in those terms when it comes to providing the food service for our many traveling teams? I just think it would be so good to be able to elevate our way of thinking about nutrition in sports to equate to where we are with the building itself. And I assume I know you've got arrangements with the hospital and so forth at various, for instance, teams at USD 305 partnering with the health center. So I'm sure you'll get all that, and probably already have the food, but I hope at least you'll think about that. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else?
Karen Shade, 111 Wisconsin. I feel a little like the Grinch bringing up fireworks at this stage of the game, but you're starting the budget process, and my comments relate to that. On the sheet I put before you at the very bottom, there's a KSAL poll that's probably not scientific, but it shows that 33% of those respondents believe that fireworks should not be legal in Salina. And this year it was fortunate for me, the noise stopped at 12:30. A lot of other years it's been 1:30 or 2. But some of the people I've spoken to were still dealing with late night noise. And it's hard to sleep when the equivalent of sonic booms are going off when you don't hear them very often. I see it as two issues. One is sparkly lights, and I can control that with curtains, drapes, shades, blinds. I can go to another part of where I live. But with sound, it starts becoming problematic, and I wanted to try, and my scrawling is no better, but they use words like artillery shells, nuclear canister shell, grenades, hypnotic cakes or funk cakes, where they put people in a mindset, and have to admit I've kind of been there before in my life as well. You kind of lose track of being a responsible person. You kind of just go after maintaining that sensation. The other part I'd like to draw your attention to on the very far right side is they fully are advertising for people to spend $500 on fireworks. And if you spend $500 on fireworks, is it realistic you're going to get them all shot off by 11 o'clock? I don't know. So it seemed like I heard on the radio that there were over 160 some complaints and 13 tickets. And I wonder about how much disturbed sleep was involved, not just in the day or two after. For me, it lingers for a couple of days to get back on my usual track. So I'm advocating that we look at the noise involved in what fireworks we allow. I try to look at 500-gram cakes. To me, that seems like it's gunpowder, but why would anybody be shooting off that much noise? And so I'd encourage you all to encourage the people who approve or determine what fireworks are legal or not to maybe take a look at how much noise is in these fireworks. And I just suggest that whatever level is used at shooting ranges where people have to wear ear protection, seems like that might be a reasonable level for the rest of the public or the kids shooting things off. My father was a huge gun enthusiast, and he never wore ear protection, and it really came back to bite him when he wanted to fly. He couldn't hear well on the radio. So you never know what direction it's going to go. We want the kids who are very enthused in fireworks to be able to hear their kids and grandkids in the future. Some of this, I'd advocate for increased enforcement. And one of the things that County Commissioner Robert Vidrickson was speaking about in their meeting last week was that in Derby, they charge $8,000 to have a fireworks stand permit. So you've got a fee schedule. I can't remember if Salina's was $1,000 or $1,500. I think the county is looking toward maybe giving that to the fire departments, but I'd also suggest it's available for increased enforcement, like we do saturation patrols by paying officers considerable overtime, and they earn it when they go out to work, like for a 4th of July holiday. That might be one way to raise the money. The other thing that I remember hearing Brad Nelson talk about, the chief of police, Brad Nelson, was that if certain types of fireworks are banned, then they can confiscate them when they see them. And that could happen at any time during the process. And I'd also suggest that the court fines for being a public nuisance, I was just briefly talking to Captain Sweeney, I'm thinking it's ticketed under public nuisance, and that's $250. And when you've got a kid who's kept 50, 100, 150, 200 people up because of the noise beyond 1 o'clock or something, I think it might require a little bit stiffer fine because they're spending huge amounts of money to buy these noisemakers. I've said probably a great plenty. I'm not anti-fireworks. It's just I'm for responsible use. And I think there's lots of ways to promote things by where you set your fees, where you set the nuisance or the tickets, those kind of things, and what you allow. The county is very much looking at adopting the city's pattern for cutting off at 11 p.m. and limiting the days of use because too many people beg lack of knowledge of what the different requirements are. So I think there's a lot of interest there, and I hope you'll work together on it because a lot of people, maybe a third of the population would like to get some decent sleep. I'm all for, I understand why it goes late to 11, but I also really think, too, that people should have at least 8 solid hours for sleep, and when the fireworks are going off till 1:30 or 2, it may mean backing out the time that those fireworks are permitted to be launched. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate your comments.
Mayor, can I ask City Manager just a quick question on the statistics from this year? If you're reviewing those at any point. I think we got an email or something that said 168 calls. Do you know what the policy is with the police department this year? Were they zero tolerance if they rolled up on you and you were doing something, it was no warning, it was a ticket, or did they still issue warnings to people?
Well, I think they probably still issue warnings, and it probably would have to do with the context of the call.
Okay.
That's my guess. I'd have to check with Chief Nelson to see exactly what they did, but generally speaking, you would expect them to issue warnings.
Yeah, I know the first few years there was hey, let's let people get used to this, and I wasn't sure if that has continued or if there's been an escalation of the enforcement to say, people, if they're violating, they get ticketed.
Yeah, I can't say for sure. Yeah, I can say, speaking to Karen's comments, that it's been quite a few years since since the governing body legalized fireworks, and again, you heard some of those concerns about that at the time, and heard other folks who supported it. And one of the messages staff sent was that no matter what you do, you're just going to temper it. You're not going to get the nuisance aspects out. And the two things we really focused on, one obviously was noise and the impact of that to people and animals and so forth. The other impact is just trash from the fireworks. I've never yet seen anybody actually go to find their trash from their fireworks and pick it up. Can't say that person's not out there, but I don't typically see that. So generally after the 4th or throughout that time, if you have fireworks set off in your area, you're going to probably find some trash in your yard you have to go pick up. That's just going to be there with keeping it legalized. So, but when we compare year to year to year, I don't know that this year was any worse. And when you talk to the enforcement side, it's probably average or better than some prior years. So it's probably about what you might expect with the I think the potential of what you can enforce while you do legalize fireworks. I would expect. I don't think you can make a lot more difference. Maybe some, but not a lot more difference.
Anyone else have anything, any discussion about it? Okay. Anyone else for citizen forum? Okay, we'll go on to public hearings and items scheduled for a certain time.
Item 5.1, continuation of public hearing and report on petition number 4386, filed by Lewis Erickson on behalf of Foley Equipment Company, requesting the vacation of KDOT acquired right-of-way west of the right-of-way line for North Ohio Street and vacation of the platted restricted access along the south side of the access road, abutting Lot 1, Block 1 of the replat of Foley addition to the City of Salina, Saline County, Kansas.
Okay. I won't open the hearing. We're continuing it from the last meeting. Okay, Mr. Andrew? I guess we're getting Mr. Bankston.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, I do think it would be best to open the public hearing
Open it?
so that it can
Okay.
then be continued. So that
Okay.
we have that
Open the public
continuous
hearing.
stream.
Okay, thank you.
It's our understanding that Mr. Erickson and representatives of the neighboring property to the north are still engaged in some discussions, and they have requested that the public hearing on this item be continued for another week to your July 17th meeting. So our recommendation would be to continue the public hearing to your July 17th, 2017 meeting.
Okay. Is there any public comment? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to,
Madam Mayor, I move that we continue the public hearing on this item until July 17th, 2017.
Second.
okay, I have a motion and a second to continue the public hearing and report on petition number 4386. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Consent agenda?
Item 6.1, approve the minutes of June 26, 2017. Item 6.2, approve resolution number 17-7462, authorizing an agreement with USD 305, assigning 3 uniform law enforcement officers to serve in the School Resource Officer Program. Item 6.3, approve resolution number 17-7448, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for beverage, vending, and advertising rights with Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company of Salina Incorporated, designated City of Salina facilities.
Okay, is there an item that a commissioner would like to have pulled off for further review? Or
Madam Mayor, item 6.3.
6.3, okay. Bring it back to the commission on items 6.1, 6.2 for approval.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve items 6.1 and 6.3 on the consent agenda.
6.2.
Oh, 6.1 and 6.2.
Is that, yeah, is that what you want? Okay.
Yes, it is, it is.
Okay, is there a second on item 6.1, 6.2?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item 6.1 and 6.2. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, item 6.3, Commissioner Davis?
I'll wait. Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's just one question. Just a few weeks ago, we had a proposal brought by someone to offer food
Yes, sir.
services in the field house. This agreement, I understand, is for beverages only, and it's this is an extension, I guess, of what's already done at
Bill Burke. Yes,
Bill
sir.
Burke.
Yes, sir.
This is a new version of what we had last week. So I'm looking for one paragraph which I hadn't seen, but does this still include any new facility that we open up during that time period? The original version of this included the field house, Bill Burke soccer field, and any new facility that opened up.
It would give
during
them
that-
consideration, yes, sir. Would mean that it would give them any new parks and recreation facility.
So it would automatically be the sole distributor. The first version of this we had from Thursday, if I'm remember correctly, automatically gave them.
I can speak to this. I helped Mr. Cotton with the agreement. The original version did contain language which made the agreement applicable to any future facilities that were constructed within the city. This new version now defines the facilities on Exhibit A, and it just lists, I believe, 4 or 5 specific facilities to which this agreement would apply. So we no longer have the and any other facility language, and it only applies to those 5 facilities on Exhibit A of the agreement.
Yeah. And Commissioners, to add to that, Section 4.1 that talks about vending services is a good example. On 4.1 locations, it says a contractor shall place vending machines at such locations in and around the facilities. The facilities means that formal list that Aaron was speaking of. As designated, mutually agreed by the parties from time to time, the city shall have the right to authorize the placement of the vending machines in city-owned properties other than the facilities. So in that particular section dealing with the vending machines, they, as Mr. Martin said, they have the facilities list, which is required, but any other location would be by mutual agreement of the two parties. So if we would choose on the other locations to say we'd like to have you here, that's great, but there's no exclusive right.
All right. And the second question, if after reviewing the activity over the next few months we decide, wow, this would be a great place to have a private concessionaire come in and maybe even offer some of the services that Mr. Black was talking about. If that concessionaire had a beverage that his or her company wanted to offer that was not offered by Pepsi Cola, does that concessionaire then have the right to bring in some beverage other than what?
No, sir. They would have to go through our Pepsi distributor.
Okay, and now would that be a negotiable item between the two of them as far as, and I can't even give you a good example other than maybe a fruit slushy or something, I don't know, but does it have to be pre-bottled beverages, or would beverages that are created on the location be exempted?
Well, from this agreement, it would require whoever sold concessions there to purchase from Mahaska.
So if a concessionaire wanted to offer something that, well, fruit slush might be a good example.
Yeah, smoothie, yeah.
Thank you, it's called something else nowadays, smoothie.
I would say if it's something that Pepsi doesn't manufacture, that would be negotiable. But if it was something that Pepsi had a version of, then we'd require them to go through Mahaska for it.
Okay.
Is this 10-year contract for
It's
both a 5-year?
5 year, yes, sir.
For both the advertising and sort of this exclusive use?
Yes, sir.
Is that a tip? I mean, because I thought it was a typo on that thing. It was 10,000 or what was it for the 5 years?
For 5 years, it was
25,000?
over. It was over 5 years. It'd be over $16,250 just
Okay.
for sponsorship. That doesn't include the rebates.
Who came up with that number? Did they come up with that, or did we come up with that? And how was that number arrived at?
It was proposed by Pepsi. We went back and forth several times. I reached out to other vendors for see if there's any other interest, such as Coca-Cola, and they weren't interested in working with us.
Okay. Just one quick question as it kind of relates to the field house, and that is that where we have obviously Tony's Pizza Event Center and a private management firm operating the Tony's Pizza Center, it kind of leaves that into their hands. This is assuming that we're at least going to be 5 years before we even consider, man, if we need to have a private management company do this, we're probably not going to.
Well, no, we could do that. They just would be restricted to the beverage products. They're not restricted to the food products at all, but they would be restricted to the beverage.
Okay.
One of the main reasons you look at this and these types of arrangements is to try to get a better per unit cost on your
Okay.
beverages, and so you're kind of balancing your a few things really: the cost for the beverage. You're balancing probably the simplicity of ordering. In essence, you don't have to deal with multiple vendors haphazardly, and you're balancing that really against some of that flexibility that you're speaking of.
Okay, and this is all. Let me just ask a question. Is it just, and this has probably been gone through and everything, but being that the Salina Regional Health Center is the naming sponsor, is it just for the naming on the building at R, and do they have any concern, since a lot of that is Health Foundation dollars, with any say on what some of the advertising or some of the other?
I think the naming came in pretty. I think it's pretty standard under the naming policy, which means that there's
There'd be no
other
conflicts
interest.
with that? Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay.
And to follow up the discussion that I've had with Mahaska is that I would prefer to see more of the water and sports drink type things in there as opposed to the sodas. There will be some sodas, but I've asked them to bring in a higher percentage of sports related drinks.
Yeah, I mean, they'll sell whatever. I mean, that's probably what they'll be drinking, a lot of the players. I was just concerned that there wasn't going to be some sort of friction between the two, in that, hey, this is, the Health Foundation doesn't allow dollars to be spent with, in certain circumstances where that we're not going to end up saying, well, wait, on that. So we don't have that problem with Bill Burke Park or the soccer area. I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate that here because there's no contractual aspect to that.
And Parks and Recs would determine which beverages are being brought in
Yes,
to be
sir.
sold.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Pepsi would have no stake in who's working the concession booth.
No, sir.
No, okay.
And you don't, and this wouldn't adversely affect when a tournament comes in and wants a cut of the revenue from the concession stand as part of their contract?
We would simply direct them to purchase their beverages from our Pepsi wholesaler.
So then the tournament sponsors percentage would come from whose?
Really wouldn't affect their percentage. Just instead of going to Sam's to buy their stuff, we would direct them to Pepsi.
Yeah, and if there was just a straight cut, it'd come out of our bottom line, not theirs. Because contractually, there's no out for theirs to be cut because of any other arrangement. So therefore, if we would make an arrangement for a large event, and they say, I want 10% of the concession, that's going to come out of our bottom line. Which, if you get a big enough tournament, that wouldn't be a big deal. But it wouldn't affect what goes to the to Mahaska.
Now, I've not been to many tournaments recently, but are there any, and I'm open this to anyone in the room, are there any popular drinks that kids are drinking that Pepsi-Cola doesn't sell?
The biggest one that I see is Mountain Dew, and that is a Pepsi product. I mean, it's a soda, but they do like their Mountain Dew.
That one probably wouldn't fit under healthy.
Yeah, it wouldn't fit under healthy.
Well, right. Sugar and
Not with all the caffeine.
As long as there's not a lot of the highly caffeinated, terrible for your heart drinks like the Monster drinks, because those are just awful. A small item on page 3, item 6.3. I'm assuming you meant golf cart advertising and not golf card. Just a typo.
No, golf cart. Yes, ma'am.
Golf card?
Yes, ma'am. At the tee
okay.
boxes. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, there we go. I stand corrected. I just assumed that it was something you'd put on a golf cart.
Could have been both.
Could have been both. A golf cart on a golf cart.
Okay, any other questions or concerns?
Well, just if there was a concessionaire, the concessionaire's menu card then would still have the Pepsi-Cola. They would use the Pepsi-Cola card here. I didn't really.
You mean the menu board?
The menu board, I guess. That same 6.1.
The menu board would simply be a display where we can move the pricing, adjust the pricing, so they could use it or they wouldn't have to use it. It's their option. It will be there in the facility.
All right. So they could still have their own menu. Okay.
Who sets the price of the product at the retail level? Everybody's buying from Mahaska, but can whoever's handling the product sell it for whatever price they want to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Public comment? Karen?
Back in the
Just
mid-19...
give your name again for the clerk.
Karen Shade, 111 Wisconsin. Back in the mid-1990s, it was fairly common for school districts to execute what are called exclusive pouring contracts, which this really sounds like, to brand with one brand of beverage. And during that time, the money was used to pay for signs and scoreboards and team uniforms, and they had specific purposes. Fast forward a few years, our nation's facing an obesity crisis, and no one seems to quite understand what the cause is, but childhood obesity is an issue, and when you see little kids, meaning I'm thinking a 10-year-old drinking a 20-ounce soda, that's a lot of soda for that size body, or the caffeine that's in there. And things have radically pulled back on that front. So I see this as an attempt to do something that's very lucrative for Pepsi Company, but may not be. I don't think you're that far along yet in your planning of what you want from vending services in that building or across. We want the kids to be in the parks, but we want them to have healthy options there too. Right now, both Pepsi and Coke and Dr. Pepper are running ads saying, we're promoting reasonable choices. It's been a long time coming, and we heard that decades, and I've heard that for 2.5 decades. 2 decades. I don't really quite believe that they really get the problem. Michael Moore wrote about this in his book, Stupid White Men. You all are not stupid. You're not entirely white. You're mixed male and female. I'd really encourage you to maybe hit the pause button on this and really look and you should have some product descriptions, and you should have greater authority to bring in, as was mentioned, the kind of beverages that are being promoted, because that has been a problem with past exclusive pouring contracts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Commissioners, real quick, in response to that, and I think you'll find this helpful, under Section 4 vending services, we did find a typo, so if you're ready for a motion at some point, I need to correct you how to fix that. But under what should be item 4.2, it shows us 5.1, it says products and stocking. The key is it says that the city shall make the final determination as to which products are to be sold for vending. And then you see down in Section 5, concession services, 5.3 has a similar language for the concession drinks, however, the city or the city's concessionaire shall make the final determination as to which products are to be sold. So we have significant discretion on trying to, as Chris was talking about, trying to emphasize the healthy products, and we'll certainly do that. I mean, we have dual needs here. One is to have healthy products, and one is to have products that will actually be sold or be purchased. And so given that this is in an athletic complex with athletic events, I think that the motivation of most of them will be to be able to get your Gatorades and other things that are considered healthy for athletes and so forth. But we have that ability to do that, is the point. So it would be different if we said, vendor, whatever you think, you can choose what's put out there, and they filled up with your energy drinks, as you say. That would be concerning, but in this case, we can dictate what's in there. With that said, we will ask that if you get to the point here soon that someone makes a motion to approve this, that you approve it with the renumbering of Section 4 to include Sections 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4 in the order of the topics that are there. And then that'll straighten that up. Then we'll make sure that the copy's clean for the signature.
And, one guideline to consider following would be looking to see what USD 305 or the local school districts are recommending at their athletic events. There was a rather famous Central High School science teacher years ago who gave a lecture on healthy beverages, and at risk of a libel suit, the one that you referenced was at the bottom of his list. He said, if you want to hydrate, go get some Pedialyte, drink what babies drink when they get diarrhea, or a football coach's pickle juice. But whatever the school districts, I think, are recommending as healthy drinks may not go to the New York City or New York State extreme, but I think someone there is thinking about just what Ms. Shade was talking about. We put all these calories and caffeine in them at a young age. There's no reason in the world to expect them to not be, addicted to them as they get older and obese.
Have one there, then have one on the way home, unfortunately.
Just I have a quick question on 5.5, which is the wholesale pricing. And Chris, you may, or Aaron, I don't know who worked out the wholesale pricing, but question number one is that the first thing on there, it says a soft drink. Do we know what size? Because $26.50 per case of 24 does not even look anywhere near like any kind of wholesale price. Either does that Gatorade it. I mean, when you're talking about $1.10 a unit, $1.04 a unit, are those... Is there something I'm not reading into that? Because, boy, I tell you what, I can buy 24 bottles of Gatorade at Costco for $12.
No, I can get clarification on that. That might simply be a typo. I'll follow up with them.
Okay, because those prices seem those unit prices seem high.
Pretty high.
The Gatorade's typically in 20-ounce bottles, so I don't know. I know the soft drink doesn't have the ounces next to it, but usually you do see Gatorade in 20-ounce bottles. I don't know. I presume they do have different size bottles, but I'm used to seeing 20,
right,
so I don't know if that may be accurate.
$1.04 a unit wholesale?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't priced wholesale prices of drinks. I'm not a person to talk to about that.
Seems pretty high.
So, okay.
You'll see them sold at $1.50 retail or higher typically. If you go to any retail outlet, whether it's convenience store or someplace else, usually those are in the $1.50 and up. Some will have them a little bit less, but usually $1.50, $1.80, somewhere in there.
Well,
retail.
I get there's a cost involved in delivering a case somewhere, but
Includes
Boy,
the cost
okay.
of delivering it.
Yeah, but I can't speak to the wholesale prices. I don't know.
Okay. All right, it's just all part of the contract. We approve a contract, we're almost approving everything that goes with it, so thought I'd ask.
I mean, are these, I don't drink sodas, or real sweet beverages, so I'm probably the worst one up here to know what the prices are. But are these all like 20-ounce bottles of soda?
I would say the vending machine will be the bottles. I don't think this is for aluminum cans.
This isn't the concession, this is,
This is
Vending?
the
Just
vending.
vending?
No, this would be, the vending would be bottles and the concession stand would be bottles as well. They
okay,
would be
it'll
the
all
same.
it'll all be the same product, okay.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
a good chance that the soft drinks are 20-ounce bottles.
And what's the TYR 20-ounce?
It's an energy drink. It's a. I'm sorry. It's like it's a cross between I'll say Gatorade and water. It's another offering such as that. It's a sports drink, not like a Red Bull type drink, but a sports drink.
Or any of these energy drinks?
Um,
But
The Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew, but none of those. None of
It
these
is.
listed here are energy drinks.
all right, and what's BIB?
Bag and box. That's for your pour for your you have the carbonated CO2 canister in the bag and box and mix for a cup.
Okay, I gotta get out more often. Okay. Okay. I meant to look those two up over the weekend, and I realized when I saw it again here, I forgot to look. Okay. Or I need to borrow somebody's kid and go to a tournament. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Bring it back to the commission for whatever action.
Just one question. If we approve this and we find that there is a typo in these unit prices, where does that get or changed, or what happens in that case?
Well, I think we'd want to confirm that the numbers are correct. I can speak to where they came from. They were copied directly from, that table was copied directly from the Mahaska proposal. So and it looks like the math adds up. I haven't pulled out my calculator, but I would not speculate that's a typo. It very well could be, but that came directly from Pepsi's or Mahaska's proposal. So if there's a desire to renegotiate that, then that should be addressed prior to the contract approval.
I honestly don't. I'm at the mercy of the other four of you. I don't buy any of these, so I honestly don't know.
I'm
I
sorry
drive
to say I do.
Buy water, but
And like Commissioner Blanchard said, I mean, you can go to Dillon's and I can get 24 for $15. And I understand there's a premium about delivering and making sure that the vending machines are full, but they are getting exclusive rights to the building and to a lot of different facilities, so I don't know.
because if the price,
Commissioner's suggestion, let me, if there's a question about the pricing, I maybe need to ask Chris on the timing if there's any. I know we have upcoming events. I don't know if we have to be under this agreement for those, but we can double check the pricing and bring this back to you next week if you have any questions at all. I believe, unless there's, like I said, a timing issue I'm not aware of. That's a pretty easy thing for us to check on.
I can check on it. If we don't have an agreement, we won't have any machines or vending in the facility by when we open this week. So.
well, considering it's a 5-year agreement, I kind of like to get it done right the first time.
Okay, what's the,
So if we do that, maybe a motion to postpone consideration of this item until next week's meeting would be fine. And then
Let me ask this. Is part of the, is part of this, where will they be on their signage, on their advertising and so on? Is that all ready to go in and?
No, that would go on we still have to have that design. It would go on the sponsorship panel on one of the scoreboards in the field house. There wouldn't be any exterior signage, it'd be internal signage.
Right, but I mean, on the field house, because we're just talking, that's the only thing that seems like there's some urgency to it or whatever. We're not going to be in a case where we get this thing opened and now we're trying to work around putting signs up and people playing games. We're not going to have that issues with that. Okay, cool.
Okay. I entertain a motion.
I would move, what's the preferred word for delay or postpone this consideration?
Yeah, postpone consideration.
Postpone
would be
consideration
fine.
for 1 week to ascertain the price of the products being offered.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to postpone resolution number 177448 to the 17th. Would that be the 17th?
July 17th, yeah.
To July 17th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. We're postponing 6.3. Okay, administration, 7.1.
Item 7.1, second reading ordinance number 17-10882, amending Article 10 signs in Chapter 42 of the Salina Code.
Okay, ordinance number 17-10882 was passed on first reading on June 26, 2017. Since that time, no comments have been received. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I would move that we approve on second reading ordinance number 17-10882, amending Article 10 signs in Chapter 42 of the Salina Code.
Second.
Okay. All those in
Discussion.
favor, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Discussion, just.
Discussion, yes.
Oh, for discussion.
Sure.
I guess the more I've been thinking about this, the basic tenets I'm fine with. People will regulate their neighbors as far as sign content. I would just ask the other commissioners if 3 would be a more reasonable number than 2. Again, we're not going to go around counting signs, but if you have a ADT alarm sign in your yard, you have a garage sale sign, nothing else can go in your yard for that weekend. And riding around town, most houses I've seen have 0 signs in their yard. And I guess won't be until election time that we see a plethora of signs. But I could just see you using up 2, if you're a sign person, using up 2. And I'm talking about aesthetically pleasing signs, but 2 is low, and I can live with 2 or 3. It's not a life-breaking decision for me, but just asking for your opinion on that, since we have to talk out loud.
I'd stay with 2.
I think, I'm good with 2 as well.
Yeah, I'm with 2. If the majority said 3, I'd be fine, but I think reasonable people can figure out how to make 2 work.
2 it is. All right.
Yeah, and real quick,
Okay.
Commissioners, one
Thank
thing
you.
too is that if you go with 2 and for whatever reason you find that we're regulating a lot, which I don't expect you will, we're seeing 3 a lot. If for some reason you see the need to amend the ordinance, that's a really simple thing that doesn't cause us to go back into all the legal interpretations. It's just a simple number. So you do have the ability to address that later if, in fact, you should choose to.
So we can change it if we
Sure.
want to, Commissioner
Oh,
Davis.
we can make it worse, yeah.
Yeah.
You sure can.
We're going to make this work, so we don't have to go through that again. Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve on second reading 17-10882. Roll call, please.
Blanchard,
No.
Davis,
Aye.
Hodges,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
and Crawford.
Aye. Okay, 7.2, please.
Item 7.2, authorize sales of general obligation internal improvement bonds, Series 2017-A, and temporary notes, Series 2017-1. Item 7.2A, receive report on bids received. Item 7.2B, second reading ordinance number 17-10886, authorizing the issuance and delivery of general obligation internal improvement bonds, Series 2017-A. Item 7.2C, Resolution Number 17-7466, prescribing the form and details of and authorizing the delivery of general obligation internal improvement bonds, Series 2017-A. And item 7.2D, Resolution Number 17.7467, authorizing and directing the sale and delivery of general obligation temporary notes, Series 2017-1.
Cindy Beneke, Deputy Finance Director. Madam Mayor, Commissioners. We're bringing to you to authorize the sale of general obligation internal improvement bonds. We have brought in Dave Arterberry. He's a Senior Vice President with George K. Baum, and he will explain to you what has taken place today, as well as we have representatives from Gilmore and Bell.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. David Arterberry again with George K. Baum and Company. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Before we get into the action items that's required, I thought I'd just spend a few minutes, hopefully not a few minutes, but a short time talking a little bit about what you're doing today and what events have been leading up to today. Last month, the Commission authorized the sale of general obligation bonds and notes to fund a variety of projects, including initial funding for the downtown streetscape project, improvements to the Grand Prairie development, the police training facility, Tony's Event Center improvements, initial funding for the river renewal project, and improvements to Country Club Road. Since that time, we've been preparing and getting ready for the sale of the notes and bonds, including we went through the process of getting the city's bond rating reviewed and affirmed. And I'd like to say that Jason and Mike and Cindy Beneke did a wonderful job working with the rating agencies to get the city's rating confirmed. One thing I'd point out also is that the rating agencies really focused on and appreciated the efforts that the city has been taking over the last few years to rebuild its fund balances. That's something they really focused on and was an important part of you keeping and maintaining your rating. We then went and distributed the offering document to potential purchasers and ended up taking bids today. At 11 o'clock, we received bids for the temporary notes, and the principal amount of those notes was $2,180,000. We ended up getting two bids on those notes, one from Commerce Bank with an interest rate of 1.24044%, and one from Oppenheimer and Company with a rate of 1.332%. Two very good bids. They both mathematically proved to be correct and met all of our bid parameters. So based on that, the low bid of Commerce Bank is the one that would suggest that you accept. Then at 12 o'clock, we received bids on the bonds, and this was a 20-year bond issue. The lowest interest rate bid was submitted by R.W. Baird and Company at 3.035479%. The cover bid was by Hutchison Shockey at 3.043%. Very close bidding, less than a 0.01% on a $9 million bond issue. So in both cases, the two bids that were received on the notes and the bonds were really good bids. And they were all, like I mentioned, mathematically correct and met all of the other bidding parameters. So see no reason that you would want to accept both of the bids. The temporary note issue didn't change in size, but because of the way the bid on the bonds was structured, we're actually able to reduce the bond issue size by about $80,000 and still provide the funding that you needed for the project. So overall, a real good result and real pleased, and would welcome any questions you have. As far as the procedural steps, if you have any about those, I'd turn those over to bond counsel, the legal counsel, to answer. So.
Questions?
No questions here?
Questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Do we need, Mr. Bankston, on 7.2, 7.2B, so forth, do we need a separate motion on each of those? I'm assuming we do.
That would be my expectation, but you can be sure when bond counsel is here, we need to defer to Ms. Rieckhoff
Okay.
on any of those
Okay.
questions. So,
Maybe that's what we need to ask. I should ask him.
well, no, I appreciate your looking my way, but
Okay.
Ms. Rieckhoff is in control of what happens here.
Each one, okay. Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission for
Okay,
action.
just a quick question. This is a second reading, is that correct? Okay. Okay. Then, Madam Mayor, I move that we approve on second reading ordinance number 17-10886, authorizing the issuance and delivery of $9,310,000 principal amount of general obligation internal improvement bond series 2017-A.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve. I'm sorry, I'm not following where we're.
A, right here. A.
Yeah, okay, A. Well, all right, let me. Pass on second reading ordinance 17-10886. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Oh,
I'm
yeah, we have
sorry.
the roll call,
There we
right?
go.
Roll call vote. Sorry. Go ahead.
Commissioner Blanchard.
Aye. Again.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Hodges.
Aye.
Commissioner Ryan. Mayor Crawford.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 17-7466, prescribing the form and details of and authorizing the delivery of $9,310,000 in principal amount of general obligation internal improvement bond series 2017-A.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second on resolution 17-7466. Is this a second reading again?
Resolution.
This is resolution. No, this is resolution. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, I move that we pass resolution number 17-7467, prescribing the form and details of and authorizing the delivery of $2,180,000 principal amount of general obligation temporary note series 2017-1.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to approve resolution 17-7467. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. All right. You, huh? 7.3.
Item 7.3, a approval of funds allocation to purchase bituminous pavement and contract pavement markings to address parking lot issues at Bill Burke Sports Complex.
We'll be easy on you
Okay,
this
Mr.
time.
Cotton, we'll
I'm
be
sorry?
a little better
We'll be
this
easy on you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
We'll try a little better.
You guys will.
I'm seeking approval of funds allocation in the amount of approximately $120,000 to purchase bituminous, did I say that right? Pavement, did I say it right, Jim? All right. Pavement and contract pavement markings to adjust parking lot issues at Bill Burke Sports Complex. Originally, we were working on two other possible projects out there, but I've had nonstop complaints about the parking at Burke since I've been here. And on two occasions, I personally have gone out on site and noticed that, A, we had a parking situation where had there been an emergency, fire EMS would have had a very difficult time getting into the facility. And two, I have witnessed heated patron exchanges in the parking lot over parking lot spaces. Bill Burke will not decrease in popularity. We're just continuing to grow and grow. Definitely think this is a needed addition to Bill Burke with your approval.
Okay, any questions?
What were the other two projects?
Number one was to expand our storage offerings. There used to be an area that we removed a concrete pad that used to house a batting cage. We were looking to eventually go back there with another storage unit. And we were also working to possibly bring the fences in on 2 or 3 of the fields to bring it in from the current, I believe it's 225 or 250 fence depth to 200 to make it more to tournament standards. However, we can make do with the current storage, even though we'd like to do something about it, and the fencing can stay as it is. The parking is definitely a concern.
So those are back a year or so?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We'll try to budget for them again in the future.
I've got just how do you anticipate the existing trailhead parking to work in this plan? I mean, if someone says, I want to drive over there and kind of go in the back, and will there be designated trailhead parking somehow?
Well, there is.
How does it work now, and how would that work differently?
Well, as of right now, they simply, if they're going to use the trail, they park in the oval. There is no designated trail parking specifically
Well, it's just kind
out
of
there.
that little gravel area, but I'm
Right.
assuming that would be removed if it's.
It would be expanded. They would still be able to park in the back. There would still be parking back there that they could go use the trail. But you're right, there is no designated trailhead at this time.
Okay. And then I have a couple of questions. Thank you for that. I have a couple of questions for, probably for Jim, and I kind of queued them up this morning with Jason, and I appreciate having that email forwarded to me that he had done. My questions were on the, who was going to be, how is the labor going to take place, and then if you can address that, and then sort of $120,000, is that just materials, or are we figuring in some labor on that as well? So you're familiar.
Right. No,
Yeah.
we fixed it. Had a couple different estimates on the work that could be done.
Okay.
And primarily the site will be cleared, existing topsoil will be cleared and leveled by our streets crews. The Parks Department will remove the trees and grind the stumps that are up around the existing building there. This is a high enough priority that we felt like we should dedicate some of the existing gravel that we have stockpiled for this purpose to build a base. And then we would actually approach our asphalt contractor this year. This is really easy paving without traffic control, lots of tonnage, that this is more paving than our crews can do with their paver, that we would approach them and negotiate a price for them to pave it.
Okay.
6 inches deep, and then typically it's a lot of striping that goes on in a parking lot, and we don't have a local company that stripes. We've been told by a couple of them it takes $5,000 just to get them in town. So to get the adequate striping in the parking lot, we'd like a separate contract to mark all the spaces and make it look professional.
Okay. So that 120,000 would be everything done?
Right.
And I'm assuming that the part that we're going to be doing internally with, as you said, kind of doing sort of the clearing and the surveying.
Right. That'll come out of our budget, but we feel like it's, like you said earlier, it's all kind of general fund.
Okay.
We think it's a high enough priority that
Okay.
we're working with Chris and his crews to improve the park system.
Okay, just a quick question on the circulation here, because as I'm looking at this, you got the two-way parking on the lower. Is that right? On the parking that's adjacent to the ball fields is 90-degree parking, and
The
it's
very
a two-way aisle.
north lot.
Right,
That's just
that very-
because it gets narrow right there with the
Right.
big deep ditch on the north side.
And so that's going
But
to
it
be
will be one way to the north, and then counterclockwise around the circle. So you
Okay.
can't back up and go back to the south anywhere in that lot.
I believe that 90-degree parking is because it's two-way traffic currently, and if it converts
Correct.
to one-way, then.
But it will be marked. But it will be marked one way in the future.
because that upper I should say the west lot has got a two-way drive lane with one side of it parking. What will we do to keep people from kind of going in the back way? Or is it okay for them to go in the back way? I mean, how do we anticipate? I mean, will people? What's the preferred method for people to get to the back parking lot? Will it be okay to go whichever way you want? Either.
No, sir. We would make that north parking lot one way. It's already one way into that direction. We would keep the flow one way around to the back parking lot, so you would have to come through there. The other areas, there's 3 other spots where you can exit and go back to the south, and we would leave those as they are.
Okay. So there would be sort of a do not enter sign that.
Correct.
So you wouldn't get people.
And they would have the option at the other 3 spots to basically swing out and go back to the south. They wouldn't have to go all the way to the very back. Now, if they got to that the existing back parking lot, they would have to go through the roundabout to get back.
Right. Okay. And then what about the existing? Is the existing sidewalk going to remain to the point where it looks like it kind of starts to veer off, and you'll just continue that to the end? Is that what that new 5-foot concrete sidewalk will only be? You're going to keep that one part of the concrete sidewalk there, or is that?
We'll keep as much as we can, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and then just the last question that I had was, actually, I had it. Commissioner Ryan asked the first question on the projects that were earmarked that were not going to be done. So,
In the storage unit, hadn't even come before you yet. We were simply working on that.
Okay.
We had money set aside in the budget for projects. That was one that we were working on, but I hadn't brought that to you yet.
Okay.
I think this is money well spent before we have a road rage incident over there, if it already hasn't already happened, because it is pretty.
I've seen some heat out there.
It's
I haven't
pretty
seen the
wild
road
over
rage.
there sometimes.
Jason, what has history been on that? I mean, has that always been, or what's happened recently that has caused that to be more of an issue now? I mean, how long have they been there? About 20 years?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that's caused it to be more of an issue. I think there's a few things, and those Mike knows that parking lot better than I do. When you follow kids around, you learn that pretty fast. But I think there are a couple things. One, there's an issue of capacity. Another is an issue of distance from where you want to get to, what field you're going to get to. Although I'm going to be honest with you, if you're going to be there for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, it shouldn't really matter where you're at in a lot, but it does. So that's kind of a realism.
Don't want to
check.
walk.
You're going to an athletic facility and you don't want to walk.
Right.
But that is an issue. And then just, like I said, just total number of spaces on a large tournament, depending on the timing, can be an issue. And that's what I think Chris has run into as well. But they can speak to it more than I can. But I don't believe it's probably any or much more of an issue than it ever has been. It's that parking area. It's a great facility. The parking has been a test of tolerance, getting in, parking, and getting out. It always has been. It's just a busy facility. And even with this, it's not going to be perfect. It doesn't solve, I get to park right next to my ball field, but it helps.
Right. Okay.
It helps give us capacity.
We opened up that back here a year or two ago for emergency purposes, right?
Yeah, there's an emergency exit to
Still
the
there.
north that helps in those cases. Doesn't help the frustration during non-emergency times when people are really
Right.
excited to get out. But if we do have a true emergency, we can open that up. It does make a difference.
Is that anywhere near? Does the existing parking spaces come anywhere near what we would typically expect to see at something like that? If this were a private baseball complex or whatever, do we even have the adequate number of parking right now? It seems low.
Well,
I mean, I
part
like
of-
what you're doing.
Part of the issue is that complex was originally built as a recreational complex, and what we have done is we have expanded it to tournament use. So I can't speak for the evolution or how long it's taken for us to get here, because I've only been here for a year. But what I do know is that on part of the issue, to me, isn't even having to. The parents have to wait on spaces, and by the time they get parked, then they have to walk, but they're waiting to find a space.
Right.
So from a private standpoint, I've seen a lot of private facilities that don't have the parking we have now. However, I've also seen private ventures that have way more parking than we have available. So I think it comes down to, in the private world, the dollars they have to invest in their facility from jump.
Okay.
I think that adding this parking lot, while I am not personally concerned about their walking distance to their child's game, I want it to be safe, and everybody needs some exercise. But what this will do is if they do have to walk to their child's game, they will get a parking spot, even if it's in the back of the park, pretty quickly, and then have the time to walk to their child's game. What I hear is by the time I find a place to park, by the time I get out of my car, we're already in the second inning.
Mhm.
So that's what this should alleviate.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
That does. And I a couple things. I appreciate you identifying the problem and taking care of it. I really do. I appreciate the interagency cooperation and, addressing it and being on the same page with prioritizing it. And my only concern is that we're not leaving ourselves in a position that we're not able to do whatever our routine maintenance things might be because we've got people doing that. But if that's kind of where the department priorities are, then I think we've adequately addressed at least the concerns that I have with that. So I appreciate the work that you guys have done together on it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it helps at all, but Chris touched on the fact that we've gone to tournament play, and my observation is, people, instead of coming for a recreational game and going home, they're parking and staying all day, including team buses and motorhomes, and so you have more people staying for an extended amount of time that aren't necessarily proportional to the number of teams playing. Your spaces are being taken for an entire day or afternoon, and that just eats up more of the parking than a recreational format.
Okay. Bring any other discussion?
No, I just like the part about having gravel down on that clay soil too, so I appreciate that.
Okay. Bring it back to the commission for action.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve funds allocation in the amount of approximately $120,000 to purchase bituminous pavement and contract pavement markings to address the parking lot issues at Bill Burke Sports Complex.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve funds allocate to Bill Burke Sports Complex. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Approved. Second. All those in favor say aye. I said that. Anyone opposed? Okay. Development business? No development business. Okay. So it looks like we have other business.
Yeah, I've got a quick question in other business, and actually, Jason seems engaged, so I'm going to ask Mr. Cotton. They can tag team on this thing. Hey, can you give us an update? I know that there are a few things going on with the field house, and people are kind of anxious and everything. Can just kind of give us a quick update on where we are, if I'm not putting you too much on the spot, but.
We'll be able to play basketball on Thursday.
Okay, and is that when that basketball camp is?
Yes, sir.
Is geared up and ready to go.
They're still working on some things. They did not get the punch list done today. The walkthrough. There's still some things that need to be finished up, but the gym floor looks really good. So our issues with that have been alleviated. They're still hanging the final nets that allow us to partition off different sections. They're still finishing up the AV. The furniture is due to be unwrapped tomorrow. The concession equipment is in. The staff has gone through training today on operating all the different systems in there, the HVAC and the different components to control the volleyball nets raising to the ceiling and the scoreboards and just running everything. So we're very close, but we're not quite there. But we will be ready for Thursday.
Is that part of that commissioning process, or
Yes,
is that
sir.
being complete? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, when will everybody get to take a look inside? Because I get that question a lot. When can the public go in and get a glimpse of the inside of the field house?
Well, obviously, we have the chamber event after the basketball clinic on Thursday the 13th.
Oh, okay. Is that something that's open to the public then?
I believe that's open to chamber members.
Okay.
But then once we get through the tournament and we do some more shaking out, hopefully with the next week or so, we'll have the public in there on a whole basis. But Travis is still running around trying to get a few last things figured out.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, thanks.
All right. Just one question for the city attorney. Do I need to, or do we need to come back for the second of two executive sessions, or can I request both just at the same time?
The short answer is yes. The league's answer would be yes.
Okay.
So I think we'll go with that. And I do have a motion that I need to provide you with if we're at the point of moving to the executive session
We are.
stage.
Well,
We are.
speaking for you. I'm sorry.
may, Mayor and Commissioners, the reason for the additional discussion, effective July 1, what were the subjects allowed for executive session are now the justifications, and what were the justifications are now the subjects. So we do have a legislative change that prompts us to change the format of the motion somewhat. So the motion that has been prepared should address the matter of, first of all, your attorney-client privilege-based executive session.
All right. I feel privileged to be the first one to read this. Madam Mayor, move that the City Commission recess into executive session for 60 minutes to discuss matters related to pending litigation, active contract negotiations, active negotiations related to acquisition of real estate, and confidential communications with legal counsel pursuant to the attorney-client privilege communications with legal counsel exception. The open meeting will resume in the room at 6:20 p.m. And my other question would be for the personnel issue. I should hold that until after the...
I'm looking to Mr. Gage to be sure, but if I'm correct in anticipating that there isn't any action anticipated based on the attorney-client privilege executive session, I suppose it would be appropriate to indicate that there would be a subsequent motion on a personnel matter, as I understand, but that similarly action is not anticipated as a result of that, and that while you will come out of your executive session for purposes of making your motion to go into the personnel-based exception, that would be the only action that's anticipated for the balance of the meeting.
Yeah, that's correct. We don't expect any formal follow-up action on any of the items.
So then, recap, we will come back out to separately request the personnel.
Motion, yes.
Correct.
Okay.
But you will not come back out. We will not have recommended action for you to come back and take other than the motion to go into the other topical executive session matter.
Understood.
I mentioned the point about the league, if I may, that the league has seen the change that the legislature made in relation to the justifications and have interpreted that it's intended to mean that they must be dealt with separately. You could have multiple issues under a particular justification, as we do with the attorney-client privilege executive session, but you cannot combine the justifications. So that's what prompts the need to separate the attorney-client privilege from the personnel matter, but why we're able to aggregate those under the attorney-client privilege.
Okay. So then I think I'm ready for a second.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. We are going into executive session.